So in this video I'm going to give you a tutorial on how to take some claims made by a journalist that are fact-based claims. They can either be right or wrong, and we're going to evaluate them as right or wrong based on impartial third-party data. The subject is Lee Stranahan, and the claims are black murder rates, black-white differentials in murder rates, homicide, using FBI crime statistics. So if you don't want the technical stuff, because this is also about how to do it technically, watch about the first 5 minutes and then skip to 12 minutes in and watch it until the end. So that should give you pretty good coverage of the high points. Thanks. Okay, so I get news and good journalism from Lee Stranahan, and if you don't already know about him, I would suggest him. This is his Periscope page. You can also find him on Twitter, @Stranahan. He's got a YouTube channel. He's got a radio show, all that good stuff. So what we're going to talk about right now is this Periscope. He's going to talk about the establishment media's 2 essential tools for enforcing narratives: omission and repetition. In this Periscope, the first half of which is really good, he's going to go over all this stuff. The second half, he's going to get into other stuff which is not as useful, but if you're a fan of him, maybe you want to listen to it. The first half is absolutely great, and I suggest that you listen if you haven't already heard it. Now, something that Lee talks about a lot is the necessity for you to go fact check what everyone says before you believe something. So what Lee is going to tell us in here, he's going to give us an example of media narrative talking about black crime in the United States and the number of black people killed by white people, and how the media only covers one part of that story, which is mainly how many black people are killed by white people and not the reverse. They don't cover black on black crime that much. They mostly omit that, and they pretty often omit the number of white people killed by black people. But anytime there's even a case that's even somewhat sketchy these days, that's a black person killed by a white, especially police, it quite often gets coverage and maybe even starts protests. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you how to do your own research on arguments like this. We're going to use something called the Uniform Crime Reporting Program data, and specifically it's called the Supplementary Homicide Report. This is something that the FBI creates from all the data that's sent into them by police departments, sheriff's offices, any kind of law enforcement all over the country that deals with homicide. They are supposed to send in data to the FBI, and they usually do it, and this is basically the best crime data that you can get anywhere. You might want something better, but you're not going to get it. This is pretty much all there is. Otherwise, you're going to have to go all around the country and collect everything yourself. So the way that you get this data is that you go to ICPSR, which is it's an institute that houses data sets related to social science, and it's at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. And you're going to make a profile, log in, create account. You're going to create an account with them. They have several different options. I think you might even be able to log in through Google. But you're going to make one, and then you're going to log in. And then you're going to go to their data search thing, and you're going to type in this Uniform Crime Reporting Program Supplementary Homicide Reports. And you're going to get a whole bunch of hits, and you're going to have to look for the one that looks like this. If you want, you could type in this number, and this will bring you straight to it for this year. Now, what I've done is I've already gone and downloaded all the years that I could find available, which is basically, I think, from 1998 up until 2015. So we're not going to go through all that, but we're going to look at what you get and how you work with it. These are your options. These are different ways to download and look at data. SAS, SPSS, Stata, R, These are programs that people use for looking at data, doing data analysis, manipulation, all that kind of stuff. They've already got built-in programs and routines that help you look at data. I personally use Stata. I've been using it for, I don't know, we're getting on like 7 or 8 years by now, so that's my preference. Stata is a paid program. You pay for it. Let me see if I can pull it up here. So this is what Stata looks like. You have a prompt here. You load your data set in. You've got several variables. You've got command list. We'll come back to this in a minute. These 4 programs are basically the same thing. R is free. It's harder to work with. It's more difficult. It's object oriented, I think, is what they call it. So that's more difficult. These 3 you all got to pay for. If you don't have any money, you're going to have to figure out how to use R. Alternatively, you can look at things simply in Excel, or you can download LibreOffice or OpenOffice and just look at it like that. So you're going to download this file. It's going to be 20 megabytes. It's going to have documentation, all this stuff in it. So let's take a gander. This is the one for 2015. This is the descriptive stuff that comes with it. And these are all the files. So you can see that we've got different file types. This is everything that was described on the web page for this download. And in Notepad++, I've opened up the ASCII file, which is this one, this text file here. So what we've got is data that is delineated by position rather than by, it has no delimiters, right? You just have to know which data is in which column. So you're going to have to consult a code book, and you're going to have to transform this stuff into something that you can use. Now, if you've got a program like Stata or R that can do this, then you don't have to go through all this hard work. Otherwise, you're going to have to do some really difficult stuff in Excel to be able to get this in a usable format. But let's say you want to figure out if this is something that you want to put more time into. I'm going to go ahead and show you how it's done in the program that I use. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull out the Stata data files. This is the same data that's in the ASCII thing, the ASCII file. It's just already separated into variables. So for example, you see here Bradford County or Bensalem Township. These are variables that describe either the police police department or the geographic location where the homicide occurred. So that's one variable. So in the Stata file, all those have already been split out for you, and I think there's anywhere from 40 to 60 variables, but they're all described in this code book. So what I have done is written this, which is a script that loads all of these different data files. This isn't very elegant, so please, I was doing this in a hurry, the fastest way that I could, so please don't criticize me too much for that, because it does work. What we're going to do is we're going to take the variables from the data set, we're going to rename them to the things that we're interested in for this example, and then we're going to save that as a temporary file. Then we're going to load the next one, do the appropriate changes, save it, load it, save it, load it, save it for all of them, and then we're going to put them all together. So we'll show you what that looks like. So now what we've got is all of the data files from 1998 up until 2015. So what we're looking at here is 250,000 basically homicides. And there's a lot of data stored about each one of these homicides. All we're pulling out right now is the basic amount of information we need to see if Lee Stranahan is right when he tells us that there's a huge disparity in black on white crime versus white on black crime, specifically as it relates to homicides. So we're going to start out with data that looks like this. I've just kept some of the variables from the data set just to give you an idea of what it looks like and to accomplish this one task that we're doing. The year's 1998. This is a black female. That's the victim's sex and the victim's race. Black female. Offender sex and offender race. We don't know. Relationship, unknown. So this is a dead black female, and we have no idea who killed her. This is an unsolved crime. This is a black woman that was killed, and nobody knows what the hell happened. Or at least the FBI and the police department don't know, right? So we scroll down a little bit, and this is white male, and AQ, which means acquaintance. So one white male was killed by another white male, and they knew each other, but they didn't have a family or sexual relationship or anything like that the police knew of or found out. Let's skip way down. White female, unknown, unknown, unknown. We don't know. Let's see here. White female victim, white male offender, girlfriend. So this is a white female who was the girlfriend of a white man who killed her. Okay? So this is the basic data that I pulled out of all these data sets. Now, to verify what Lee was talking about, this is what you have to do. We're going to generate a new variable for victim and a new variable for offender. We're going to replace these string variables with the race and the sex of the person according to those variables. So basically what we're doing is we're going to collapse these two dimensions into, one categorical variable basically. So we're going to go from 2 to 1. And this is going to allow us to do crosstabs between the two. So we're going to go from having 4 variables to 2. That way we can do a crosstab. So we're going to do that. We're going to run this code here. Okay, so it ran it. And now we're going to tab them. So what we're going to do is victim and offender. So what we're looking at here is 160,000 homicides for which we have data on the victim and the offender. Now that's out of 240,614. So what's our coverage here? 160, 900 over 248,614. So we know in about 65% of the cases the race and sex of the offender and the victim. Now that other remaining 1/3 could completely change the story, but we just don't know. We don't know what's going on with those people. And since I'm an empiricist, I want to work with the data that we actually have, not the world in the ways that it could be. Talk about how that could potentially influence or change our minds. Let's talk about what we actually know about, which is this stuff here. 2/3 is still pretty good. So black females killed by black females. That's what this cell is. 1,545. And this is for all years, right? Let's do tab year just to remind you. So we've got the whole data set, right? We've got about 13 to 14,000 per year. So let's do tab year if victim is not blank and offender is not blank. So you can see here, these are the homicides for which we actually have data on both the victim and the offender in terms of their race and sex. So we went from having 13 to 15,000 per year, and now we've got anywhere from 8 to 10,000 basically. So that's how we get our 160 out of that. And you can see it's pretty much stable from year to year. So we'll go back to our crosstab, and let's just do it for 1 year. If year equals 2015. So this is going to be the same crosstab, but only for 1 year rather than for the whole data set. So what we're going to look at is black males killed by black males, 2,744. White males killed by white males, 2,307. So this is a pretty interesting number, just comparing these two. Because as you know, non-Hispanic whites are something like 60% of the population of the United States, and the white males in that population are killing each other at a lower absolute number than black males when black people only comprise about 13 or 14% of the total population. So let's say that these numbers were the same, right? Let's say that they were both 2,300. Well, then you would simply do 0.13 over 0.62, for example. You'd get 0.2, which is, 1 over 5, right? So the homicide rate for black males on black males per capita is 5 times higher than white males on white males. So this is basically comporting with what Lee said. Now the other thing that's interesting in this is we can look at black male offenders and white male victims. 550. So there are 550 murders in 550 homicides in 2015 in which a black male killed a white male. Now, the reverse of that is this cell. These are black male victims and white male offenders. So, 376 cases in which a white male killed a black male. Now, we would have to look into this further and try to ascertain the relationships in these cases, but this is counter to the media narrative, and this is what Lee Stranahan was talking about. Black males kill white males more often in the United States, even though black people are only about 13.5% of the population, and white males kill black males less often, even though they're 60-something% of the population. So if you start doing the per capita on this, it gets out of control really fast. It's even worse, of course, than the comparison between these two. So this is how you do this kind of research with government statistics that are the best thing available. Now, if you don't know how to use this software, you can learn how to use it yourself. You can find a free alternative, but this is the way that you go about it. You use publicly available data from places like this. It comes from the FBI. It's U.S. government sponsored. This is the cream of the crop. This is the best that you can get. You get it directly from them. You don't edit it. You go straight to it, and then you start looking at this stuff for yourself. And then you can determine if your news sources are telling you the truth or if they're lying to you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. If you found this useful or helpful, please let me know. If you think I'm wrong or doing this the wrong way, let me know about that too. Thanks.